What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. Back at you guys with a late night episode, man. We got NFL Week 16 predictions. The football gods gave us a great Christmas present as NFL fans. We got an early Super Bowl preview potentially. 49ers, Ravens, Monday Night Football, prime time, Christmas Day. Then on Christmas Eve, we got the Miami Dolphins and the Dallas Cowboys. Going to be giving you guys my preview and predictions for those games. We're going to hit on a couple of other games as well. What's the future for Robert Saleh with the New York Jets? You know, there's some speculation floating around that maybe he's not there for 2024 when Aaron Rodgers returns. And what about Arthur Smith? Because there's some skepticism about his future too. And it's crazy because I came on here and defended Arthur Smith last week, and then these fools have the audacity to give the Panthers their second win of the season. Unfreaking believable. We're going to touch on that. USC football has some concerns. Welcome. If you're tuned in to the live chat, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Remember that every episode of the podcast that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, you can find the JT Sports Podcast. Give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Share the pod if you enjoy. And let's talk some football, man. I'm really amped up for tonight's episode. So, Arthur Smith desperately needs to win because his job is on the line at this point. You're going up against an Indianapolis Colts team that right now they're red hot. And they're playing for a lot of things as well in their own right. They're trying to hang on to that playoff spot in a wild card. Arthur Smith in this offense, they got to find a way to take care of the football. We don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback in this game. Desmond Ridder threw the game-losing interception against the Carolina Panthers. And then you have Taylor Heinicke, who started a couple of games for Atlanta, but then he ended up leaving some matchup with the concussion, and then Desmond Ridder comes in, and he's pretty much been the starting quarterback since. But if Arthur Smith has to make another quarterback change, whoever starts in this game, they can't turn the football over. When you're going up against this Colts team, they make you pay when you turn the football over because they do a really good job at turning those into points. Atlanta has a really good defense. Their defense is good enough to keep them in any game that they play in. The offense has to find more consistency, and that's going to involve Arthur Smith actually using his best players on offense. Bijan Robinson got shut down last week. We didn't really hear too much out of Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Hell, when Desmond Ridder threw that interception in the red zone, did you not know that Drake London was wide the hell open? We need some consistency out of the offense for Atlanta to pull off this win. Indianapolis, with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, you're going to have opportunities to come away with some turnovers. He throws a lot of YOLO balls. We saw the pass that he threw to Michael Pittman last week that got DeMonte Casey suspended for the rest of the season. Gardner Minshew has a gunslinger mentality. This dude sees somebody, he's going to throw it, he's going to pull the trigger, and he's going to think about it later. The Falcons have a really good chance at being able to gift their offense some extra possessions in this game, which is something that they're going to need. The Colts don't really have a great defense. They're really good when it comes to coming away with takeaways. They forced 3 last week against Pittsburgh. If you can't limit the amount of mistakes that you make on the offense side of the football, if you're the Falcons, you're going to have a chance to pull off this win. Your defense is pretty formidable against the run. They got a really good secondary that has performed well. Indianapolis is a team that's been winning games based on being opportunists. They take advantage when you give them opportunities to get extra possessions. And they also are a team that they don't really beat themselves. They don't really have a lot of costly penalties. They're really well coached. And that's a big reason why they're even in the fucking playoffs anyway. Who would have thought that Indianapolis going into week 16 would be 8-6, tied for first place in the AFC South? Shane Steichen is putting on a coaching clinic right now. Arthur Smith, can't say the same about him. This is a game that Atlanta really needs to win. They're playing at home. Their playoff hopes are on the line. Their hopes for winning this division are on the line. And Arthur Smith, these last 3 games of the season may just determine if he's going to return in 2024. They desperately need a win. Indianapolis, what do they do well? They run the football, and defensively, they do a really good job at finding ways to make your quarterback uncomfortable. They got a really good pass rush, a fantastic defensive line. Atlanta's pass blocking unit when it comes to the O-line hasn't been great. Indianapolis, if you can take away the run game of Atlanta and this becomes a pass-heavy game where Atlanta has to rely on Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heinicke or whoever they throw out there at quarterback in this game, if they have to throw the ball 25 plus 30 times in this matchup, you like your chances of not only coming away with takeaways, but you like your chances of being able to win this game. But if Atlanta gets that run game going and they can have that ball control offense that they want, this game favors them. Indianapolis defensively, outside of takeaways, they're not really good at doing anything else. I'm going with Indy to get the win. I have lost all faith in the Atlanta Falcons. I thought that Arthur Smith was an okay coach. I felt he should have been brought back for another season. But after losing to the damn Carolina Panthers last week, I'm selling all my Atlanta Falcons stock. I'm not picking these boys to win a single game, especially if they decide to throw Desmond Ridder out there. This dude is the definition of a turnover. He is what, like second, number 1 in the league in turnovers, and you're going up against a team that does a really good job at coming away with them. This isn't a good matchup for the Falcons. Not only are the Colts going to win this game, but they definitely are going to be able to cover. Atlanta is really a 1-point favorite? For what? They don't have the coaching advantage. They may be a tad bit better talent-wise than Indianapolis, but you got a head coach who doesn't really know how to utilize the talent on his team. The Colts are locked to win this game. I'll be really surprised if they don't walk away with the win. Browns, Texans, we're not going to see CJ Stroud this week. He likely is going to miss this game due to that concussion that he suffered the week prior. And we're going to see Case Keenum again. We got the battle of the old man veteran backups. Old man Grandpa Flacco has led the Browns to some really impressive wins. He played really well against Jacksonville, and he played really great in the fourth quarter against the Bears last week. And the Bears defense has been playing some really good football. Houston, you won a tough run against Tennessee. You're not going to be able to survive against this Browns defense the same way that you did offensively last week. You need more out of this offense. The Browns defensively last week, they only gave up 3 points, technically. Their offense had 3 turnovers, and those resulted in 14 points scored by Chicago. If Joe Flacco can limit the amount of mistakes that he makes in this game, the Browns, they should walk away with the W. Houston, without CJ Stroud, they got a chance because Cleveland's offense is still heavily inefficient. Because Joe Flacco is still trying to learn the system, still trying to learn the teammates. 2 out of 3 of the interceptions that he threw last week were just miscommunication where him and the wide receiver weren't on the same page. The Houston Texans have a really good run defense. They're 6th in the NFL and rushing yards per game allowed. That's what Cleveland wants to do offensively. They want to run the ball down your throat. Their offensive line is really beat up. They got like 5th, 6th stringers, guys who they just randomly got off the street starting for them on the offensive line. Houston defensively can keep them in this ball game. But it's asking a lot out of this Texans offense to be able to move the ball efficiently against a really good Browns defense. The Browns, they've been beat up defensively too, just as well on the offensive side of the ball. This defense has dealt with a ton of injuries, but that front 7 is still fantastic, and you're going to have to deal with Myles Garrett. The Texans offensive line, they've had a lot of struggles this year. Are you going to be able to hold up and protect Case Keenum in a game like this? The Tennessee Titans don't have the same defense that Cleveland has, and you barely were able to move the ball up against them. Cleveland's recipe to success is making sure that Grandpa Flacco doesn't give the Houston Texans any Christmas presents. All right, you got to be like the Grinch who stole Christmas. You got to take care of the ball, and you got to make sure that Houston doesn't get any extra opportunities, because that's what they're looking for. And this defense is going to show up regardless of the amount of injuries they have. D'Amico Ryans has proven, because I took them last week to lose to the Titans, that you can't count them out just because they don't have CJ Stroud. You still feel really confident about Cleveland's chances of walking away with this win? Case Keenum against this Browns defense? Yeah, let's see how that plays out. But turnovers could really cost them if Joe Flacco doesn't do a good job of getting that under control. Yes, we get that he just was on the couch a month ago and he's been an incredible story, but going up against the Jaguars, they're a team that beats themselves consistently. Houston, on the other hand, they're not really a team that loses the turnover margin too often, and they're really good at forcing takeaways in their own right with how well that secondary is playing with the recent emergence of young cornerback Derek Stingley. You got Will Anderson. There are a lot of young players, a lot of good vets on this Texans defense, and that's going to be good enough to keep them in this game and to keep this thing close. And I'm pretty confident that Joe Flacco is going to give them a couple of turnovers. That's just the kind of quarterback that he's been with this team. They've just found ways to rally in the fourth quarter and win tight games. If this is a tight game, you should be a little nervous if you're a Browns fan. You want to be able to go into the fourth quarter up 10 points. Houston's offense, if they can get the 20 points in this game, then they got an 80% chance of winning this thing. This offense is going to have a hard time being able to score a lot of points against a really stingy Cleveland Browns defense. I'm taking Cleveland to get the win. I'm pretty confident that they should be able to pull this one out. No CJ Stroud. The Texans are without some of their best receivers. Tank Dell is out. Defensively, the Texans is going to be able to stay in this game, but their offense, I think, is going to be a little bit mismatched and overpowered by the talent that the Browns have defensively. Give me Cleveland. 20-10 is my final score prediction for this game. The Philadelphia Eagles allowed Drew Lock to engineer a 10-play, 92-yard game-winning touchdown drive. And I was listening to a couple of talking heads in the national media say that the Eagles have no reasons to be concerned. No, they're wrong. You have a lot of reasons to be concerned. Anytime you change coordinators with only 1 month left of the season, that's a problem. And this Matt Patricia defense allowed Drew Lock to get a game-winning drive. That's a concern. James Bradbury is cooked. Darius Slay is cooked. Jalen Hurts has a little cooked. Look, I get it. The dude played with the flu. But just because he played sick doesn't excuse him from making the idiotic decisions that he was making Monday night. He threw 2 really costly interceptions, especially the last one that he threw when he was trying to push the ball downfield to A.J. Brown. What the hell was he doing? Why not try to get the ball in field goal range and try to send the game into overtime? This defense, they can't stop a nosebleed. If you can't stop Drew Lock from getting a game-winning touchdown, which was 92 yards, by the way, 3rd and 10, you think you got an opportunity to get off the field and win the game, and instead, you allow this dude to get a prayer to DK Metcalf. The Eagles have some huge problems. People need to stop trying to make it seem like they're going to get it together. No, they're falling apart at the worst moment. Around this time of the NFL season, this is when you're supposed to be hitting your stride. After Thanksgiving is when the pretenders separate themselves from the contenders, and the contenders start to separate themselves from the pretenders. And right now, Philadelphia, they're limping to the finish line. And if they were to play a playoff game against Tampa Bay right now, I don't know how much confidence I would have in them being able to pull off the win. This is a team that doesn't play their best football until the fourth quarter of games. And that's not a consistent formula if you consider yourself to be a championship football team. Jalen Hurts hasn't looked like an MVP candidate this year. He has definitely regressed in his play. He hasn't been terrible. He still is a top 5 quarterback, but you need better quarterback play if you're going to be able to make a deep playoff run. Your last 3 games of the season are all winnable. You played the New York Giants twice, which you should be able to beat them, even if they do get Tommy DeVito back. And plus, you look at the fact that Dallas has to go up against the Miami Dolphins and the Detroit Lions in back-to-back weeks. You still have a strong shot at being able to win this division and getting a home playoff game. But you lost 2 straight games in blowout fashion to the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys in back-to-back weeks. Then you lose to Drew Lock on Monday Night Football. And people are trying to make it seem like the sky isn't falling. Like, no, people, the sky is falling in Philadelphia. We got some dead birds on the ground, and we need to call animal control to come collect and scoop those dead carcasses up right now. Philadelphia is cooked. Matt Patricia is your defensive coordinator right now. That defense did not look good in the fourth quarter. The offensive line hasn't played great. What Philadelphia needs to do is get back to running the football more with DeAndre Swift. When this offense was at its best earlier this season, DeAndre Swift had a big part of it. And we haven't really heard of him as of late. They need to get back to that. Jalen Hurts, outside of the tush push, that's the only thing that he really does efficiently. He started last week out really good with that first opening drive. And then after that, it was downhill from there. Him coming into this week, hopefully coming off that illness that he had last week, he's more healthy. He's been banged up, dealing with injuries all this season, but everybody is. But there's no way you can just look at Philadelphia, lose 3 straight in a row, and just say, oh yeah, like they're going to be fine. They still got the win over the Chiefs, and they still got the win over the Dolphins and the Bills. Yeah, they got wins in those games, but if they were to run it back with Buffalo, I would take Buffalo. If they were to run it back with the Dolphins, hell, I would take Miami. This defense can't stop anybody. And unless Philadelphia can get consistent pressure with their defensive line, they're going to be cooked. James Bradbury and Darius Slay, they can't guard nobody in one-on-one situations on the outside. Your linebackers are beat up. They can't stop the run. This Eagles team, I don't know what the hell people are looking at that gives them the assurance that they're okay, but they are not okay. If this team was okay, do you really think they would have made a change at defensive coordinator with only 4 weeks left of the season? No, that's a sign of panic, people. It's time to hit the panic button, hit that eject button. If you had any stock in Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl this year, you need to sell that shit ASAP right now, because they may not make it out of the wild card weekend with the way they played. There were people who got mad at me last night because I said that Baker Mayfield has played better than Jalen Hurts as of late. And I still stand on that. I stand on that 10 toes down. Jalen Hurts has not looked good. He hasn't. I'm not saying that the dude's a bad quarterback, but at times, he just looks really bad for the first 3 quarters of games. You can't show up with only 15 minutes left when the fourth quarter comes around and not play good the first 3 quarters. That's not what a championship football team is. You got to play a full, complete game from the opening whistle to the final whistle. This isn't one of those situations where the Philadelphia Eagles are just in a little bit of a cold streak. No, you're limping to the finish line. Normally, when you have teams that go into the playoffs with the way Philadelphia is playing right now, they're an early first-round exit. Well, if you take the 49ers out of the NFC, JT, who are you taking then? Nobody. I don't have no confidence in anybody being able to win a Super Bowl out of this conference anymore. Just go ahead and get a Lombardi trophy to the Ravens if the 49ers get upset in the playoffs. Philadelphia can't even get off the field and stop Drew Lock from engineering a 10-play, 92-yard, 1 minute and 24-second game-winning drive. That's a problem. Your secondary can't guard anybody. How are you going to be able to stop Dallas if you play them again? How are you going to be able to stop the 49ers if you play them again? You got outmatched and you got out-physical. The only great thing about Philadelphia's defense that they have going for them right now is how great that pass rush is. With Hassan Reddick, Jalen Timothy Carter, Fletcher Cox, they need those guys to get activated if they're going to be able to turn their season around. Their last 3 games should be easy wins, but we thought that Seattle was going to be an easy win. Seattle was really wounded going into that Monday night game. Hell, they started Drew Lock. They're not starting him next week. You know who they're starting? Geno Smith, despite the incredible performance that Drew Lock had on that final drive. So that tells you everything you need to know. I'm a little confused at how people can just be like, man, you got to relax. The Eagles are still a contender. No, they're not. You can't lose 3 straight, 2 including blowout losses back-to-back weeks where you look uncompetitive and then lose to Drew Lock on Monday night and think that everything's fine. No, everything is not fine, people. The Eagles are the Titanic right now. Last night, they hit that glacier. That glacier was Drew Lock, and they're sinking fast. You're just not all of a sudden going to change defensive coordinators and your defense just ironically starts to figure it out. You got depth issues at linebacker, issues in your secondary. You can't stop the run. You can't stop nobody in pass coverage. Your corners are old, slow, and washed up. The Eagles are cooked right now. Jalen Hurts is cooked. Whoever's calling the plays on offense is cooked. This whole team is cooked, man. We got some dead birds in Philadelphia, people. Dead birds. Go outside. Go look for them. Make sure that you pick them up. Throw them in the trash and wash your hands once you get done with this so you don't get any disease because the Eagles got something going around. And it ain't a lot of winning. What they got going on right now is what I like to call the stink. And you don't want the stink with 3 weeks left of the regular season. You should be playing your best football. If you can annihilate the New York Giants or the Arizona Cardinals, then there's no chance anybody should really be betting money on Philly making it out of the NFC this year. Last year when this team played, they clobbered all of the NFL's worst teams. If you can't do that this season and you're in a dogfight with the Giants twice and the Cardinals, how can I take you serious as a Super Bowl contender when you're limping down the stretch? It makes no sense to me how people are just trying to overlook Philadelphia's problems. You don't make a change on the coaching staff of this magnitude this late into the season. That is a huge red flag. I saw something that said that Sean Desai didn't really look like he had a lot of confidence. Well, what's the reasoning for the lack of confidence out of Sean Desai? Because if you ask me, this whole team looks like they're lacking in confidence. And I don't blame them. You allow Drew Lock to get a 10-play, 92-yard game-winning touchdown drive on you, I would be lacking a little bit of confidence in myself. This Eagles team, they're in wounded animal mode right now. To quote my guy Josh Pate, they're not looking good. You're supposed to be running through the line. The 49ers right now, they're running through the finish line. Philadelphia had firm control of the number 1 seed. And now they don't anymore. The 49ers have it. The Eagles, they needed that first round bye more than any other team in the NFC needed it. Jalen Hurts is banged up. You got all kinds of injuries. You got older players in the secondary that look washed up. You need that first round bye. You still have a chance to get it. But even if you get it, there's no guarantee that you're even going to be able to take advantage of it. I wouldn't trust Philadelphia against anybody right now. If they lose into the Seahawks and Drew Lock, what makes you have any confidence that they're going to be able to win a game at home in the postseason when the 49ers ran into Philadelphia and ran those boys out the building? The Dallas Cowboys ran them out the building. The Eagles are not a good team right now. They're a talented team that's not playing up to their potential. They're playing down. They should have clobbered Seattle on Monday night. They didn't have to blow them out, but they should at least have beat those boys by 10 if they were the team that we thought they were coming into this season. The sky is falling, people. We got some dead birds on the ground, and we need to call animal control to come pick them up. ASAP, man. ASAP. You know, one thing about USC football is that anytime you have a couple of guys hit the portal, people start thinking that the world is falling apart down there in Los Angeles. And everybody just has it up for Lincoln Riley for some reason. So USC has some kind of transfer portal, mass exodus going on. They lost hella former 5-stars. You lost a defensive end who was a former 5-star. Corey Foreman, he hit the portal. 5-star quarterback, highly touted QB coming out of last year's recruiting class, Malachi Nelson, he hit the portal as well. Then you got Damani Jackson, who was really productive this season, by the way. He hit the portal. What the hell is going on? Is this a reason to be concerned if you're a Trojans fan? I don't think so. Why? I mean, you're losing a lot of talented guys who were coming out of high school who played on a defense that sucked last year. Why are people freaking out about this? Lincoln Riley, he's losing it at USC. They're losing all these players to the portal. USC is going through the same exact thing that the rest of the other teams in college football are suffering right now. You're getting into bowl season, and some of your best players or players that were highly touted coming out of high school are hitting the portal. Is USC the only program going through this? No. Why is it that people want to make it seem like when USC loses a couple of transfer portal, loses a couple of guys to the transfer portal, they're the only team that's suffering through it? No. Texas A&M just lost arguably their most talented wide receiver to the portal. They're not the only program going through this, people. There's no reason to panic and freak out like the world is falling. It's not. This defense sucked last year. Nobody should really even have a spot solidified on this defense. Everybody who started on this defense last year has to prove themselves. You got a new defensive coordinator in Deanne Lynn, and he's going to make some changes, and he's going to revamp that defense. And if I'm Deanne Lynn, I wouldn't want none of these scrubs who started on this defense last year. This defense going to stop anybody. They allowed a pig farmer to put them in the field goal range to win the game. Like, this defense was atrocious last year. Who cares if they lose a couple of guys to the portal? It's not like they were that good anyway, and most of these guys that's hitting the portal, they didn't even really have too much playing time anyway. For example, Corey Foreman. This dude has been at USC for 3 years, damn near, and barely has saw the field. He hasn't even had a sack since 2021, and people are freaking out about this like it's a big loss. One thing about USC, they can lose a few talented guys to the portal, and they can bring and replace those guys with just as talented guys from the portal. You want to know why? Because they have money and resources. This is nothing to worry about. They lost a few guys, and they're going to bring more in. That's just how it goes in today's age of college football. Why are people making this such a bigger deal than what it is? Because it's not even a big issue at all. This is college football, people. This is the time when the majority of the players who were riding the bench for the past couple of seasons start looking at their options, and they start hitting that portal. This isn't something that nobody else is going through. The majority of programs in college football are suffering through the same thing, but I don't see nobody else going crazy over it. I don't see nobody else making a big issue over it. But because it's USC and Lincoln Riley is coming off the worst season of his coaching career, the Trojans should be concerned. They shouldn't be concerned. All right. They're going to replace those guys. They're going to find maybe even better guys in the portal who can come in and actually have a significant impact on the Trojans actually having a respectable defense this year. Like, we're freaking out over guys hitting the portal on defense that didn't even touch the field. They were play watchers. They were watching the game on the bench. Why are we freaking out about this? Why are we making this such a big deal? Trojans fans probably aren't tripping over this, but for the teams in the Big Ten like Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State, yeah, I've seen y'all. I've seen y'all coming at USC saying, "Oh, they're going to be in trouble when they get into the Big Ten. Oh, these talented players exiting the program. What's going on? What's going on is that it's transfer portal season. Stop acting like you guys don't know how this thing works. You've been watching football just as long as I've been watching football, especially college football. The transfer portal has been around for a couple of years now. In the month of December, this is where you start to see the most amount of players enter the portal. Like when you got a talented roster and you recruit at a very high level, there are going to be players who are going to want to leave if they're not seeing the field. What's the big issue with this? USC is fine. All right. If you're a Penn State fan and you're a Michigan fan or Ohio State fan and you're one of the people that's trying to make a big deal over this, you need to worry about your program. You need to worry about your team when USC comes ready to play. Because if this team has a defense this year that's even remotely as good as what UCLA's defense was this past year under Deanne Lynn, college football is going to be in a world of trouble because USC is going to be good enough to win it all. They just got former Kansas State quarterback Will Howard in the transfer portal. Malachi Nelson, he was a little bit of a letdown. He wasn't really expected to ever see the field at USC. He wasn't really that great, according to reports and what people are saying about him and how he played in practice and whatnot. Losing him is not really a big issue. Lincoln Riley is the quarterback guru. His last couple of quarterbacks have all had success in the NFL and have won the Heisman. Trust me, there are plenty of other quarterbacks out there that are highly touted 5 stars or 4 stars in high school right now that are just jumping at the bit to play for Lincoln Riley. If you want to get to the NFL and you want to be a potential first, second round pick, Lincoln Riley is the dude to go to who can get you there. Nobody should be worried about Malachi Nelson hitting the transfer portal. Yeah, he had a lot of potential and upside, but so did Dante Moore. There's been countless quarterbacks from last year's recruiting cycle that were hyped up and haven't really been able to live up to those high level of expectations. There's no reason to panic about USC football. They're fine. What they're going through is nothing different from what the rest of the sport is going through right now. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to my guy, Juan Gotti Talking Sports, man. He commented the GOAT emoji, man. You the GOAT. You about to leave off for the military, man. Definitely going to miss your content. If you haven't already, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We got a lot more things to discuss on tonight's episode. We got some more NFL Week 16 predictions to get into. But before we get into those, remember that every episode of the podcast that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. Man, are you tired of looking at your stale, boring-ass room? You want to know a way you can spice your room up and turn that thing into an out-of-this-galaxy experience? Click the link in the description or pinned comment and grab you a Starry Projector Light. The Starry Projector Light comes with 10 changeable color options, a built-in Bluetooth speaker, 12 and 15 switchable constellations, planets, moons, and stars. Transform your room from a depressing wasteland into a vibrant starry wonderland. The Starry Projector Light makes for a great holiday gift for family, friends, and loved ones. Click the link in the description or pinned comment and get one today and transform your room into a breathtaking, starry wonderland. The Jacksonville Jaguars desperately need a win for Christmas right now. All they need to ask Santa for Christmas is a win because they need one in the worst way. And they're going up against a Buccaneers team right now that's in a completely opposite situation from what they're in. They're on a 3-game win streak. And I'm going to be honest, if you were to ask me who has been the most biggest surprise team in the league this year, I got to go with the Bucs because, be honest, most of us didn't think that Baker Mayfield was going to be as good as what he's been this year. And who would have thought that Todd Bowles would have this team in position to win the NFC South for a second straight year in a row? Say what you want about this being the worst division in the NFL. For him to win it consecutively, potentially again, you got to give a lot of props to him being able to do that. That shows that he's not that bad of a coach. If you can win a terrible division twice, that shows that at least you're good enough that you're not losing and you're not playing down to some of the worst teams in the league and some of the worst coach teams in the league, which probably reside in this division. You see, the Buccaneers, why they're winning games is because Baker Mayfield is cooking right now. They got Baker baking in the kitchen, and he's whipping that shit up right now. Mike Evans is going off. You got a really good group of wide receivers outside of Mike Evans. You got Chris Godwin. You got a pretty good tight end. You got Rachaad White, who, although they don't have a lot of success on the ground with him consistently, he's really good catching the football out of the backfield. Tampa Bay is a really underrated offense. Defensively, they've had their fair share of misses. They've dealt with some injuries this year. They've had some injuries at linebacker. Devin White, he was a healthy scratch. He has a contract dispute going on. It's probably wrapped for him in Tampa. The secondary has been a little bit beat up as well. But to their credit, this is a defense that, outside of that Texans game, they've been pretty solid. They haven't really given up 30 points other than that matchup. And the Jaguars offense, the problem with Jacksonville is that they have too many self-inflicted errors. And we don't even know if Trevor Lawrence is even going to be able to play in this game. He's in concussion protocol. Their backup quarterback is good enough to keep them in this game due to the talent that the Jags have offensively. The Bucs offense is talented, but so is Jacksonville. They got really good wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones. You got Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne, which we didn't really hear him do anything, and their loss to the Baltimore Ravens. They got to get Travis Etienne going. Regardless of who suits up at quarterback for the Jags in this game, whether it be their backup or Trevor Lawrence, the run game has to get activated. All right? You see, the problem with Trevor Lawrence is that when you can get consistent pressure on him, he gets rattled. And he's not the same quarterback once you get a couple of hits on him. But when he's throwing and operating from a clean pocket, this dude is like machine-like. You kind of can call him like the NFL equivalent to what War Machine is in Marvel. The Buccaneers got to make sure that they get Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable if he plays in this game. He's not at 100%. And this is somebody that once you get pressure on him and you get him forcing the issue, he'll cough up the pigskin. And you can walk away with a couple of Christmas gifts. And if you're Tampa Bay, you need to be the Grinch who stole Christmas this afternoon in this matchup. Jacksonville is a team that if you give them the opportunity to, they'll self-implode and they'll do the heavy lifting for you. But if you get a Jags team that takes care of the football and they're locked in and they're executing at a high level offensively, this is probably going to be a back and forth affair. Now, defensively, the Jacksonville Jaguars, outside of their run defense, their pass defense has been awful this year. They don't really have great communication. Their corners haven't played good. And they do have some injuries that they're dealing with. Tyson Campbell has missed the last couple of matchups. But even when they've been healthy at defensive back and in the secondary, they still haven't been good. They got shredded by Grandpa Flacco. Baker Mayfield, with the way that he was baking up those touchdowns against the Green Bay Packers last week, yeah, we know that Joe Barry is one of the worst defensive coordinators in the National Football League, but the Jaguars D coordinator, he's not too far off from how bad Joe Barry is. And there are a lot of Jags fans that want their defensive coordinator's head right now for a good reason. The most consistent player on Jacksonville's defense is Josh Allen. Tampa Bay, they need to do everything they can to slow this dude down. They need to triple team him, quadruple team him, chip him with a tight end, a running back. Do not allow Josh Allen to wreck this game. And Trayvon Walker, even to an extent, he started to come on as of late. I was kind of losing a little hope on him. I thought he was a bust, honestly, but he's coming on. So they got a pass rush. And they are formidable against the run. But it doesn't really matter that they got a great run defense in this game. It's going to come down to Jacksonville's ability to slow down the Buccaneers' passing attack. I never thought I would say this. I never would thought that in the last couple of years, with all the teams that Baker Mayfield has bounced around on, he's been passed around like a hot potato in the NFL, that he would be somebody that the Jaguars have to game plan for and to make sure that they can slow this dude down. And I don't really think they're going to be able to do it, man. I'm taking the Bucs to get the win. I'm rolling with the Baker train. Even if Trevor Lawrence plays in this game, the Jags are the more talented team. And I probably will agree that they have the coaching advantage because Doug Peterson is a better coach than Todd Bowles. But the Jags aren't playing really inspiring football. They beat themselves. They're inconsistent. Trevor Lawrence is really inefficient at times. The Bucs don't really have too many turnovers that they give to other teams. And their defense is good enough that they're not just going to allow Jacksonville's offense to have one of those games when they just explode. I'm taking Tampa Bay 31-20 is my final score prediction for this game. A lot of people are going to be surprised that the Buccaneers are going to continue to win. This will be their fourth win if they get it. And I'm just riding on who has the hot hand right now. And right now, it's Baker Mayfield in Tampa. I'm not going to trust the team in Jacksonville that can't even take care of the football and has too many self-inflicted errors. Thursday night football, we got the Saints versus the Rams. New Orleans, they need to pray to the football gods in this game. You want to know why? Because the football gods have to make sure that they can bless Dennis Allen with the ability to look like a good coach in this game, because there is an obvious mismatch going into this matchup. And you know what it is? It's the coaching staffs. Dennis Allen, this dude is one of the worst head coaches in the National Football League. And if you're a Saints fan who doesn't remember me from shitting on you in the offseason, hey, welcome back to the podcast. I'm happy to tell you that I told you so. You're 7-7 right now. You're fighting for your playoff life. And this is a big game for not only you in terms of keeping pace with Tampa Bay for the NFC South, but also if you could win this game, then you could take over that 7th spot from the Rams. So you could put yourself in a position with the win in this game that you don't have to win this division to get into the playoffs. The Rams, though, they are a really good football team. And it's really shocking at how good they've been. Going into this season, I wasn't expecting this team to be a playoff team. I thought Matthew Stafford was going to miss a couple of games. I thought the defense was going to be terrible. But Sean McVay, he's been coaching his ass off. And he should be in the Coach of the Year conversation. I don't think he's getting enough talk about it. You got Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, who are two of their best young players on this offense, especially Kyron Williams. Ever since he came back from that injury, this offense has looked completely different. Matthew Stafford, he's playing at an MVP level. And you look at the New Orleans Saints, I'm looking at Derek Carr. I need this brother to show up. This brother is stealing money from the city of New Orleans. Saints fans know that Derek Carr has been a really big disappointment. He was supposed to take this offense to the next level. People thought that it was Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton who were holding the offense back last year. You paid Derek Carr all that money in free agency, and he has to look like a bigger upgrade nowhere than what you had last year. And some people may argue that Jameis Winston could be better than Derek Carr. All this dude does is check the ball down. He'll take a couple of shots downfield here or there, but this is a really vanilla offense. And they really are going to need some incredible coaching to pull off this win. That's the first thing that needs to go right for New Orleans to have a shot at pulling off this win. They need Dennis Allen and his coaching staff to wake up on the right side of bed, need to eat a good breakfast, eat a good dinner, and make sure that they have a great game plan for this LA Rams offense. Dennis Allen is a defensive-minded coach. The Rams should not be able to score any more than 24 points in this game if Dennis Allen is as good as a defensive-minded coach as we all give him credit for. New Orleans defense, to their credit, they've been pretty good. But this is the best offense that you played the last couple of months. And do you know something scary? The Saints only have one game all year long where they've beaten a team that has a record of above 500, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. Outside of that win, they don't have a single game that they can show you can have confidence in them being able to beat a team as good as the LA Rams. They're going to have to prove it in this game. All right, can they slow down Matthew Stafford? Can they get pressure on him? You got a pretty solid front seven. Your pass rush is still really good, and the talent definitely is there in the secondary. You just have to go out there, and you have to execute. If Dennis Allen and this defense show up, this is going to be a tough football game. The Rams are still mostly a fairly young team, so there are going to be some moments where they may have a missed assignment, and you can take advantage of that. Derek Carr, he takes care of the football. Even though he's a check down machine, you run this offense through Alvin Kamara. The Rams run defense, you can run on it. The Ravens have success running on that thing. And we know that the New Orleans Saints are nowhere as close to the juggernaut that Baltimore is. But if Baltimore can have success the way they did on the ground, so can you. You need to come out here and run this offense through Alvin Kamara. You don't need to put the ball in Derek Carr's hands. I don't trust Derek Carr in a game like this. He hasn't pulled through in a game like this all season long. You just think all of a sudden it's going to change tonight? Because Christmas is around the corner? The best Christmas present that you Saints fans can get is a game where Derek Carr outplays Matthew Stafford. The three keys to the Saints winning this game: Dennis Allen looking like a competent coach in this game, Pete Carmichael calling some good plays on offense, and Derek Carr actually earning every single penny of his contract for the first time all season long. You need a Christmas miracle for this game to go your way. And I'm taking the Rams. I'm not finna trust Dennis Allen. Like, you Saints fans are gonna make it seem like I'm hating on y'all, but I'm just telling the truth. Dennis Allen is one of the worst coaches in the NFL, and this is an obvious coaching mismatch. Talent-wise, there's not really a big gap between any of these two teams. If anything, the Rams have the talent advantage. Outside of Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave, who else does New Orleans have offensively? What, Taysom Hill? That's probably their third best player on offense. You can't trust Pete Carmichael. You can't trust Derek Carr to make big plays and these big primetime matchups. I'm going to trust the Rams. They nearly beat Baltimore. For them to be able to score the amount of points that they did on that Ravens defense was fairly impressive, considering how dominant the Ravens have been on that side of the football. I'm not about to trust Dennis Allen. Are you going to trust him? If you're a Saints fan, do you really have confidence that he is a good enough coach that can get you a win against Sean McVay, who's coaching his tail off right now? I don't. So I'm taking the Rams to get the win. 31-17 is my final score prediction for this game. I think the Rams embarrass New Orleans on Thursday night. It's just a big coaching disadvantage in this game. And if New Orleans shows up and plays their best football, then I say Rams win it 27-24. But I'm not expecting a miracle. You're going to need a Christmas miracle if you think that Dennis Allen's just going to wake up all of a sudden and be able to coach a competent game against Sean McVay. This defense is going to have to show up, and I don't think it is with the way that Sean McVay has been cooking with some of the play calling he's displayed in the last couple of recent outings that the Rams have had. The last time the Pittsburgh Steelers got a win, it's been a while. And they beat the Bengals 16-10. That's when they had that big explosion on offense, when they had, over 300 yards, 400 yards of total offense. You beat Jake Browning when you had Kenny Pickett fully healthy. And then you fast forward to now. You're on a 3-game losing streak, losing to the damn Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots, and the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers, not only are they playing for their playoff lives, but Mike Tomlin, he may be coaching for his job. And if Pittsburgh can't find a way to beat Jake Browning and company, I'm going to have even more things to say about why Mike Tomlin should not be the head coach of the Steelers next season. Jake Browning, on the other hand, this dude is having a insanity run. And I say this every week, and I'm going to say it again. Jake Browning is great value Joe Burrow. You ever went to Walmart and you got the Fruit Loops on one side and you got the great value Fruit Loops on one side? Jake Browning is the great value Fruit Loops. That's how he's played. The Steelers need to take away all these short passes that the Bengals like to call. They don't really push the ball downfield all that often, even though they do have the ability to generate big plays via the vertical passing game, as we saw last week to T. Higgins. Jamar Chase, he's dealing with an injury. We don't really know his status, but it doesn't really sound good. They make it seem like, according to some reports I've read before I started recording this, he could miss not only this game, but a couple of more games as well. Cincinnati, not to fear, because Pittsburgh's secondary, regardless of who you have out there at receiver, they're going to eat either way. The Steelers secondary has been terrible. Joey Porter Jr. is the best cornerback on this team when he's not having these costly pass interference penalties. But outside of him, everybody on this cornerback group, you should be able to have a big day on. T. Higgins, you should just throw him the ball on whoever's lined up against him. Even if Joey Porter's lined up against him, just throw it on them anyway, because most of the times you're going to get a pass interference call in your direction. The linebackers haven't been good for Pittsburgh. Ironically, the last time these two teams played, Pittsburgh outgained Cincinnati in the rushing department, 153 yards to 25. You can't have that happen again if you're Zach Taylor. If you don't run that ball with Joe Mixon has been really underrated this year. You watch Joe Mixon play, this dude is running guys over like he's playing Madden 25 and he's Marshawn Lynch or something. Every time he gets the ball, every game I watch Joe Mixon playing, he's running like 2-3 guys over. This dude has been a tank and he's been incredibly underrated. And you Bengals fans better make sure Joe Mixon gets into the Pro Bowl. Little off topic, but Joe Mixon needs to be in the Pro Bowl this year. He's been really underrated. Pittsburgh, their run defense isn't good. They got shredded by two of the Indianapolis Colts backup running backs. Zach Moss got injured during that game. They had no Jonathan Taylor. You would have thought that the Steelers' run defense would have been able to step up, but instead they get beat by the Colts practice squad running backs. Do you know how long it's been since I've seen Trey Sermon playing the game? And a dude named Tyler Goodson who played for Iowa a while back? Like, if the Bengals don't have more success running this football, I'm going to be really surprised. And this is coming from a diehard Steelers fan. Like, this run defense is awful, and it all starts because they don't have good linebackers. Maybe a underrated player to watch on Cincinnati's offense is their tight end, Irv Smith. You can't really cover the middle of the field, and Irv Smith, he could be a guy to look out for who could have a big game for the Bengals in the passing game. Jamar Chase is down. Who's going to be that number 2 option? It should be Irv Smith. The Steelers, what they need to do defensively is force Jake Browning to hold the football and allow what your defense does best to shine. Make Jake Browning have to hold on to the football, get him out of rhythm, get after him fast, and make sure that you can shut down this quick passing attack of Cincinnati, because 70 to 80% of this offense is halfback screens or bubble screens to these wide receivers, slants, and just a lot of quick stuff. You can get away, you can force Jake Browning to get a little bit off his game when he doesn't have the ability to get the ball out fast. And with how good this pass rush is, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to feast on this offensive line. This offensive line has played better as of late, but it's still an offensive line that has had their fair share of struggles throughout this season. And last week against the Minnesota Vikings, their defense was getting ate up by that backup quarterback who they had back out there. I can't even remember this dude's name. That just tells you a lot about everything you need to know about him. But the Bengals defensively, going up against Mason Rudolph, you like your chances if you're a Bengals fan. But I'm telling you this straight up. Mason Rudolph, one thing that separates him from Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky is that this dude is a gunslinger. He's going to throw the football downfield. And we haven't seen Mason Rudolph start in a game since 2019 when Myles Garrett knocked the shit out of him with that helmet, when he pretty much took his helmet and said, "Bop!" So Mason Rudolph, I wouldn't count this dude out if I'm a Bengals fan. All right, this dude has a really good arm. He has a stronger arm than Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, and he doesn't hesitate to pull the trigger. And that means that we could see a big game out of George Pickens potentially. Cincinnati's defense, this is probably the worst that has been in all of their years under defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. This is a young secondary. They got a lot of new young faces on that defense. They lost a lot of veterans in free agency last year. So this is a defense that has had their fair share of growing pains. Pittsburgh offensively, this should be a game where you should get going. The run game should be there. You ran it for 153 yards the last time you played. You may not be able to have that same amount of success in this game because Cincinnati definitely is going to make some changes But they're without their best run defender and DJ Reader, who, if I'm not mistaken, he's out for the rest of this season. And without him, this run defense that already wasn't really that good takes a major nosedive without him. All right. Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, they have been a really good 1-2 punch at the running back position since week 9. The key to the Steelers having an efficient day on offense is running the football. If they can get that ground game going like they did the last time they played, they got a great chance of being able to win this game. And it's really hard for me to pick against Pittsburgh, because the reason why I picked them last week to beat Indianapolis is because I didn't think that Mike Tomlin was going to lose 3 straight games. And it's hard for me to see him losing 4 straight games. He's still a really good coach. You know, the problem with Pittsburgh is that it's just too many costly turnovers by the offense. Mason Rudolph, he's not going to do any better job of taking care of the football than what Mitchell Trubisky did. But at least with Mason Rudolph at quarterback, you're going to have somebody who's going to take way more shots downfield, and hopefully he doesn't overthrow and miss open wide receivers. Mitchell Trubisky, for some reason, this dude has tunnel vision. Allen Robinson was open on the 3rd and 5 on an easy hitch route, and he just ignores him being wide open and says, bumping, I'm just going to try to throw this pass to Pat Freiermuth, who he was open to, but he threw it in the dirt. Mason Rudolph, he can't be no worse than what Mitchell Trubisky was. At least he takes shots downfield. Give me a quarterback that's going to take some chances against a secondary that definitely can be had. Mason Rudolph, he may have been the Steelers' 3rd string quarterback, but he can come out here and make some plays. Don't count this dude out. I'm taking Cincinnati, though, man. Like, as a Steeler fan, it pains me to pick Cincinnati to win this game, but Mike Tomlin, this dude has lost it as a coach. He's not a great coach in my eyes anymore. He's a good coach, but he's not great. He's not top 5 in my eyes anymore. You done lost 3 straight. You got blowed out and embarrassed on the road by Indianapolis. Jake Browning is playing some great football. And Zach Taylor and his coaching staff, they're doing a fantastic job at finding ways to win without their star players. With the injuries that they dealt with, not having Joe Burrow on the field, you're 8-6 with the chance of being able to hold on and make it into the playoffs some way, somehow. That's a testament to how good of a coaching staff they have. And around this time of the season, that's when you start to see the better coaches and the better staffs have a bigger impact on their team's performance and wins compared to Mike Tomlin, who we thought at one point used to be a great coach in this league. Based on what we've seen out of him the last couple of weeks, he's looked really bad. Questionable clock management, questionable personnel decisions. I'm taking Cincy to win this matchup. We got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Miami Dolphins. Super Bowl fraud versus Super Bowl fraud. Somebody's going to come out here and show us otherwise. Dallas, I mean, Jesus Christ, man. The Buffalo Bills, they kicked the shit out of Dallas. Let's just be honest. Buffalo, they opened up a can of foot pass, and they just was throwing it all over the field against the Dallas Cowboys, man. Like, Dallas, they got outmatched and outmanned physically by Buffalo. Buffalo didn't even need Josh Allen to throw the ball for over 100 yards. They were running that thing down Dallas' throats with James Cook. And James Cook is a really good running back. He's really elusive, really fast in the open field. And if you struggle to slow down James Cook, you might struggle this week to slow down Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, especially Devon Achane. Like, Devon Achane is like, I call him ATM. He's an automatic touchdown machine waiting to happen. With how fast this dude is, this dude just gets a little bit of open field and he's gone to the races. And Raheem Mostert, don't know how many of you guys know this, he has 20 touchdowns on the season. Normally, if you got 20 touchdowns as a running back, you're in the MVP conversation or you're in the All-Pro conversation. The Dolphins have a really good rushing attack. And I don't agree with this narrative that the Dallas Cowboys are just a more physical team than Miami. Miami's offensive line, they're not great. They're dealing with some injuries. But defensively, their defensive line is more than capable of being able to replicate the same performance that Buffalo had. You look at somebody who can be an X factor in this game for the Dolphins defense. I'm not talking about Jalen Ramsey. I'm going to go and say Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins is fantastic against the run. And Dallas, they don't really have a lot of efficiency running the football with Tony Pollard. The Dallas Cowboys, their key to winning this game is going to depend on how well Dak Prescott plays. And he's played at an MVP level for the majority of this season, outside of when they played San Francisco and last week against the Buffalo Bills. Vic Fangio's defense looked fantastic against Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett, but how's it going to look against Mike McCarthy? You see, Vic Fangio's defense hasn't showed up in a big game all season outside of that loss against Kansas City. They didn't play well against Philadelphia. They got shredded by the Buffalo Bills. I'm expecting this Dallas Cowboys passing attack to get right back on track. Yeah, they got talented players in the secondary. You got Javon Holland. You got Jalen Ramsey. But you just have names. Anytime the Dolphins play in a big game, this defense doesn't play well. Kansas City, I mean, you can count that if you want to, but their offense hasn't really been anything that you can brag against. Their offense has struggled against damn near everybody that they've played. Miami, you're going to need your offense to show up. Your defense probably isn't going to win this game for you. Your offense has to be able to go toe-to-toe with Dallas offense point for point. And you should be able to do that because Dallas defense, just like how your defense is a tad bit overrated, their defense is hell of overrated. People make it seem like the Dallas Cowboys got a top 3 defense. Not when I watched them. I watched them play against Buffalo last week. And Buffalo ran it all down their throats. All down their throats. This secondary hasn't been good against an elite quarterback all season long. They haven't been good against an elite offense all season long. This should be the best performance that the Miami Dolphins have had on offense against a team this good ever under Mike McDaniel. This offense hasn't showed up in big games. They didn't show up against the Bills when they got blown out. They only scored, 17 against Philadelphia. They struggled against Kansas City. This offense has to come out in this game and show us something. And if they struggle against this Cowboys defense, I would be really surprised because there are a lot of matchups that favor Miami's offense in this game. You got Deron Bland, Stephon Gilmore at cornerback. You got a secondary that is pretty talented, but they have a certain level of play that, yeah, they're talented, but they can get beat on double moves. They can have costly penalties. They can be undisciplined at times. With the speed that the Dolphins have with Tyreek Hill playing in this game and Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa should have a really big game against this Dallas secondary. Now, how is this offensive line going to hold up against Michael Parsons in this pass rush? We're just going to have to pray to the football gods on it, and we're just going to have to hope for a Christmas miracle that this offensive line doesn't get beat to shreds by the defensive front of the Dallas Cowboys. If you're Dallas, you want to win this game with your offense playing at a productive level, getting back to how they were playing when you clobbered Philadelphia on Sunday night, and you got to get back to making sure that Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level. Tua Tagovailoa, he's going to show up in this game. Dallas secondary, they got talent, but too many people judge the Dallas Cowboys roster from what they have on paper, and they don't necessarily take into account how this defense has looked anytime they face a remotely good quarterback. Hell, like, they gave up 30 Thursday night a couple of weeks ago to Geno Smith. If you have talented receivers, you can score points on Dallas defense. This defense is massively overrated, and it's why I don't believe that Dan Quinn is even head coach material. The Dallas Cowboys overall, though, they still are the more talented team to me. They're better up front than what the Miami Dolphins are on both sides of the football. Jalen Phillips, your star pass rusher, he got injured on your Black Friday game. So we don't really know just how good this defensive line is going to be when it comes to affecting Dak Prescott. Last week, that Bills defensive line, they were harassing and getting after Dak Prescott all afternoon, including when they had that injury to Zach Martin. But I'm taking Dallas to get the win. I just don't really trust Miami that much. I don't trust Dallas neither, which is why I call it fraud versus fraud, because both of these two teams think they're Super Bowl contenders. At least their fan bases do, but they don't play like it. And one of these teams is going to walk away with a win that's going to put them one step closer to still staying in that conversation for the 1 seed. Miami is only 1 game back of the Ravens. You play them next week. So a win here and a win next week against Baltimore, you take control of the number 1 seed in the AFC, which can be big for you, getting that first round bye. Dallas, you're still trying to keep pace with Philadelphia, who has a 3-game stretch of playing the Giants twice, and they also have to play the Arizona Cardinals. Dallas can afford to lose this game, because you lose this game, you lose your edge on still keeping pace with a Philly team that, yeah, they're limping to the finish line, but let's be honest, they should win their last 3 games. It would be a shocker if they lost to either the Giants or the Cardinals. The Dallas Cowboys, I get they don't play all that well on the road, but the Miami Dolphins, they haven't played any good football against any team that is remotely close to being a Super Bowl contender or has a winning record. I trust Mike McCarthy in this spot. He's been here before. He knows what it takes to win a game like this. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. That Bills game, I'm just going to take it for what it was. They had a little bit of something going around where 10 players had some kind of stomach illness. So I'm just going to say that last week's performance was just all due to that. All right, I'm just going to act like last week didn't happen, because Miami isn't the same team that the Buffalo Bills are. Both of these two teams are looking to prove themselves in this game. Who's going to be able to do it? Who's going to be able to submit themselves as a legit MVP candidate when it comes to Tua and Dak Prescott, and also Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill in these games, he's been pretty quiet also. He puts up 100 plus in these monster stat lines against bad teams such as Washington, but where was this against Philadelphia? Where was this against Kansas City? Where was this the first time you played Buffalo? When the lights are the brightest and the expectations are the highest, the Dolphins always seem to be a letdown in these kinds of games. I'm taking the Cowboys. 31-27 is my final score prediction. Arthur Smith last week, I came on here and I defended this dude, saying that all he needs is a quarterback and he should come back for another year. Well, I got a strong change of heart after witnessing what I saw the Falcons do against the Carolina Panthers, giving them their 2nd win of the season. Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys paid attention, because a lot of people didn't really go to the game. They didn't really care to watch it in person. Yeah, the Falcons lost to the Carolina Panthers. And you want to know the main reason why they lost that game? Desmond Ridder, a dude who a good amount of Falcons fans believes needs more time to develop, threw the game away in the red zone and allowed Bryce Young to drive the Panthers downfield and set them up for the game-winning field goal. Arthur Smith, this dude is a joke. All right, this dude's supposed to be an offensive-minded coach, but the Falcons' offense is below average. They've invested in skill position players in the last 3 drafts in the first round, and they don't know how to get them the freaking football. You can't get Kyle Pitts the football. Despite how versatile he is, he can play outside receiver, he can play in the slide, he can line up in tight end. This dude is supposed to be a mismatch nightmare. It can't be too hard to give Kyle Pitts the ball. What about Drake London? The only time Drake London gets some action is if Desmond Ridder's just throwing a bomb downfield to him, or if he just happens to get a ball via a screen or maybe a slant. That's about it. They don't feature their best players in this offense. Bijan Robinson, he had a down game last week. Okay, I will agree that maybe Tyler Algier should have gotten more touches than Bijan in that game. But there's no reason why Bijan Robinson should have been underutilized the way that he's had over the last couple of weeks. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs and what the hell he's doing for the Detroit Lions. Why can't Bijan Robinson be doing the same thing? He needs to be featured in his offense, not just more in the ground game, but more in the passing game. Desmond Ridder is a quarterback that you cannot trust with the game on the line. He's a turnover machine. And we don't even know if Arthur Smith even plans on starting this dude anymore. If I'm Arthur Smith, I'm not starting Desmond Ridder anymore. I'm kicking that dude to the curb. When you are a coach and you have an offense that is centered around ball control and pounding the rock, you can't afford mistakes. And Desmond Ridder has too many mistakes in the worst moments of games, man. Arthur Smith has to go. If you can't find a way to get Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London the ball, dudes who you wanted to get in the first round of the last couple of drafts, you don't deserve to be called an offensive-minded coach. If you specialize in a certain area of the football, that should never be the worst part of your team. The Falcons' defense is the only reason why this team has 6 wins. If it wasn't for how good this defense has been playing this year, this team will probably be a 3-4 win team right now. They're 6-8. They still have a chance to turn their season around. But as far as Arthur Smith coming back to this team in 2024, absolutely not. They need to go ahead and tell him to clean out his front, clean out that office right now. Go get some Kleenex, go get you a mop, go get you some Fabuloso, and clean that thing out for the next head coach, because he doesn't need to come back to the A. This dude is an atrocity. No way you have 3 of the most talented players on your roster who you invested first round picks in, and you don't know how to get them the football. I watched the game when I saw Arthur Smith cook up a tight end pass with Jonnu Smith. And what the hell happened to Jonnu Smith? Is he injured? What happened to him? Because Arthur Smith ain't even using him no more. Like, Arthur Smith is not a good head coach. He's like the equivalent to what Jeff Fisher was when he was going 8-8 every single season with the LA Rams. And even with the better quarterback, do you think that really is going to make anything better? Getting a better quarterback may sound like a good idea, and it may give you a little bit more reason to give Arthur Smith another year. But if this dude can't even get Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson involved, what makes you think that he has what it takes to develop a young quarterback? Like, I don't believe in Arthur Smith. All right, this dude is in year 3 right now. And year 3 is when a coach shows you if he deserves to remain the head coach for the foreseeable future of your organization, or if you need to part ways with him. The only exception is Robert Saleh, because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Outside of that, there's no other head coach in the history of this league that has had a losing record their first 3 years, and then all of a sudden in year 4, they just figure it out. Arthur Smith can't even win a weak division. When I was talking to Falcons fans before this season, the reason for them having so much optimism for why they could win this division and make it to the playoffs was because they had an easy schedule and they didn't play a lot of good quarterbacks. Well, you don't play a lot of great quarterbacks, but you don't have a good quarterback yourself, and you don't have a good head coach. You get Justin Fields. I don't think Arthur Smith is going to know what to do with that. You get Jaden Daniels in the first round. I doubt Arthur Smith is going to know what to do with that. You really think that this dude is going to know what to do with a young quarterback, and he doesn't even know what to do with the best young pieces that he has on his team? Arthur Smith, he's finished as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. If the Falcons owner had any common sense, he'll fire this dude if they lose to Indianapolis this Sunday, and it's going to happen. You want to know why they're going to lose to Indy? Because Indy has the better coaching staff. Indianapolis is 8-6, competing for the AFC South Division, currently occupying one of the final wildcard spots in the playoffs with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. Shane Steichen is winning with Gardner Minshew, and yet Arthur Smith is playing musical chairs with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. I don't know why people were even so infatuated with Desmond Ridder and the potential that he had anyway. This dude was getting comparisons to Alex Smith. And he doesn't even play anywhere close to Alex Smith because Alex Smith took care of the football. That was his MO. He was a definition of a game manager. Desmond Ridder can't even do that. If anything, he's a worse or more athletic version of Jameis Winston. At least Jameis Winston would throw hella interceptions, but he'll come back and throw hell of touchdowns. Arthur Smith, as far as his future in Atlanta, it should be done. It should be grits. His office needs to be cleaned out. He needs to go ahead and do the heavy lifting so the janitors don't have to do it for him, and just clean that office up. for the new head coach who Atlanta brings in if they fire this dude. He doesn't need to come back. You can't even win the weakest division in the NFL. This division's two best quarterbacks are Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles currently occupy the top spot in this division. That's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Like, if you can't win this division, you don't deserve to be a head coach. It's just simple. It may sound harsh and it may be hard to hear if you're a Falcons fan, but most of you guys know the truth. You don't need 4 years to know if you have a good head coach or not. It only takes 3 years. Arthur Smith has had 3 years to build this team up. Mention with the whole stuff about the salary cap and all the salary cap penalties that you have to pay. Who cares? You got 3 first-round picks on this team, and Arthur Smith can't even get them the football, man. This dude needs to go ASAP. And if anything, if he doesn't want to clean his office out for him, hell, I'll go up there to Atlanta. I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks. I'll help clean out that man's office because I want to see this dude out of Atlanta. This team is a quarterback and a good head coach away from being a playoff caliber team and maybe a few more pieces away from being a Super Bowl contender. If they can fix the offensive line and continue to improve that defense, hell, make their defensive coordinator the head coach. Hell, at least his side of the ball is taking care of things. His side of the ball is the only reason why you still have an outside chance of winning this division and making it to the playoffs. The Falcons have so much talent, and yet it's gone to waste because you have an offensive-minded coach who really isn't an offensive-minded coach. I don't know what this dude is. I can't call you an offensive-minded coach if the offense sucks. And now you're back playing musical chairs at quarterback. What are you going to do, man? You should have started Taylor Heineke for the remainder of this season. I don't know why he made the decision to go back to Desmond Ridder. That's like breaking up with your girlfriend because she continues to do the same thing over and over again. And then you go right back to her thinking that things are going to be different. And she does the exact same thing again. That's what this situation is with Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder. He really thought that sitting Desmond Ridder for a couple of games all of a sudden was going to erase his turnover problems. It hasn't. This dude is not a good head coach, man. Like, I'm tired of Arthur Smith. And what even has me even more pissed about this situation is that I got B. John Robinson on my fantasy team, man. So, yeah, I do have a little bit more bias towards wanting Arthur Smith gone out of Atlanta because he has wasted one of the better running back prospects that we've seen come out in recent memory. Like, bro, when are we going to start seeing B. John Robinson lining up in the slot? I get that Tyler Algier is a really good running back and you also want to get Cordell Patterson involved, but use B. John Robinson as a receiver. That's what made him such a polarizing prospect coming out of Texas. How he can impact the game in a variety of different ways. He's not a traditional running back. He should be doing the same thing that we see Jahmyr Gibbs doing right now with the Detroit Lions. But you want to know the difference in situations between B. John and Jahmyr? Jahmyr actually has a good coordinator, a good play caller, Ben Johnson. You know who B. John Robinson has? A dude who has a mustache that damn near looks like Adolf Hitler. This dude doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And at one point, I thought that the Falcons were going to change and, exceed my expectations because I had this team nowhere more than 7-8 wins. And at first, with how they played this year and how Desmond Ridder was looking, I was like, okay, maybe I doubted these boys a little bit too much. Let me see what they got. And then all of a sudden, they start losing games. Like, you lost to the Carolina Panthers in front of a home crowd full of only 5,000 people. They were selling the tickets for $3, man. Like, you allow Bryce Young to get the ball back and engineer a game-winning drive? That's embarrassing. That was supposed to be an easy win. That was supposed to be a gimme. That was supposed to keep you not just in the hunt for this division, but also in the hunt for the 7th seed or the 6th seed potentially. Arthur Smith is a garbage head coach, man. He is not good. He may be a good coordinator, but he doesn't have what it takes to be the next head coach of the Falcons that can take them back to the Super Bowl, which seems like such a long time ago. Like, it seems like, it's been 20 years since they had that 28-3. That 28-3 meltdown to Tom Brady and the Patriots. And ever since then, this franchise has been nothing but downhill. They just can't get it right. When are they going to get rid of Arthur Smith, man? This dude has to go. It's crazy how I was on here saying that he ain't that bad of a head coach, but if they brought him back, I wouldn't be mad at it. All he needs is a quarterback. But the more I watch this team play, and before you say, man, JT, you don't know what you talking about. You ain't no Falcons fan. I've watched about 70% of the Falcons games, either live or on replay, because I got Bijan Robinson on my fantasy team. I invested a first-round pick in Bijan Robinson. So, of course, I'm going to watch a handful of your games, man. And every time I watch this team play, you either got a Desmond Ridder turnover, you got stupid play calling by Arthur Smith. I would never get over that tight end pass when they played against the Tennessee Titans in the red zone. That was one of the dumbest play calls I've seen all year long. Arthur Smith, he needs to go. He needs the pink slip. He doesn't need another year. If he gets another year and they get another quarterback in there, I may have just a tad bit of optimism. But why get optimistic about getting a new quarterback when this dude doesn't even know how to use the three best players on his offense who he invested first-round picks in? Then don't say, man, JT, Arthur Smith ain't draft those players. That's a GM. Arthur Smith wanted Bijan Robinson. Nobody's taking a running back in the first round anymore unless your head coach wants one. Okay? Nobody's taking a tight end, top 5, top 10 to draft if your head coach doesn't want one. All right? That's just how it goes. He's an offensive-minded coach, and the Falcons have went offense in the first round the last 3 years of the draft. He wanted those guys. They got those guys for him. He has the pieces to the puzzle, and yet he keeps trying to make the wrong pieces fit. He's giving the ball to everybody else but the players who he drafted in the first round. Like, I can keep going on and on about this guy. And the more I keep talking about him, the more frustrated I get. The more I keep talking about Arthur Smith and how he's underutilized the talent on his team, the more I want this dude fired. Drake London is one of the more physically gifted wide receivers in the league, and he barely gets any opportunities. Bijan Robinson should be lined up out wide, being utilized as a wide receiver, not just a running back. And Kyle Pitts is a weapon. You can line this dude up anywhere. Arthur Smith has all these great chess pieces, and yet he only looks like he knows how to play checkers. Get rid of this guy. I'm not a Falcons fan, but I do have a little bit of love for this team. This kind of is like my second favorite team, believe it or not, because I'm from the city of Atlanta. Oh, JT, you from Atlanta? Where was you born at? Grady. I'm a Grady baby. And if you are from the A and you're an ATLian, you know why those Grady babies are something special. But Arthur Smith, I want this dude to get the hell out of Atlanta, man. Like, please, get this dude out. Get Ben Johnson. Get a real offensive-minded coach. Imagine if you had Sean Payton coaching this team right now. Even if you did have Desmond Ridder at QB, Sean Payton would have Desmond Ridder looking way better than what he's had look under Arthur Smith. When they got rid of Marcus Mariota, it was because you couldn't trust this dude in late game situations because he was so clumsy with taking care of the football. Well, you got the same thing in Desmond Ridder. If anything, Desmond Ridder is more Marcus Mariota than he is Alex Smith. He's done the same shit that Mariota did last year, giving the game away in the fourth quarter. Get this dude out of my face. Get this dude out of Atlanta and tell him to go ahead and take Desmond Ridder with him. He can get the boot too. You know, going into this season, there was a lot of optimism about the New York Jets and what the expectations were going to be with Aaron Rodgers. But when Aaron Rodgers got injured against the Buffalo Bills, let's be honest, their season was done. Give Robert Saleh another year. There are people calling for Robert Saleh to lose his job. Here's the thing. Yes, he does have a really bad win-loss record, but he hasn't had a quarterback. And if you're a defensive-minded coach in this league, you got to get quarterback right. He made some bad hires at offensive coordinator. Nathaniel Hackett, he should be fired, but he's probably not going to go anywhere because he's Aaron Rodgers' buddy. Wait until Aaron Rodgers gets fully healthy for 2024 and running back. He hasn't lost his locker room. The locker room may have gotten a little bit frustrated with him at times with how he's handled the quarterback situation, not benching Zach Wilson when he should have benched him, but he benches Zach Wilson and then goes right back to him because they had nothing else better. Like, this locker room still believes in Robert Saleh. This dude is a really good defensive-minded coach. And if you are really good on the side of the football that you specialize in, I'm going to have a little bit more confidence in you being able to figure it out as a head coach versus somebody like Arthur Smith, who's an offensive-minded head coach, and the offense sucks water through a garden hose. This defense has played at a top 10 level all season long, and the majority of the New York Jets games this season have been fairly close. Yeah, they got a lot of 14-plus losses under Robert Saleh, but it's only because the defense has carried the load for this team so much that they're going to get tired. You need to have an efficient offense so your defense doesn't get fatigued. When your defense is on the field for 60, 70, 80 plays, 20-plus plays more than what they should be, of course they're going to get tired. Of course they're not going to be able to get a lot of stops late in the game when it matters. I want Aaron Rodgers to come back next season, and I want to see Robert Saleh as the head coach. Aaron Rodgers still believes in him, and the players still believe in him. Why not bring him back? People keep saying how the owner of the Jets, he's not really patient, he's really erratic in his behavior. Like, if the New York Jets owner has some damn common sense, he would know that once Aaron Rodgers got injured 3 plays into his Jets career Monday night against Buffalo, the season was over. If these players in the locker room thought they had a chance of making it to the playoffs, it's only because they had to be motivated, because they had to find a little bit of hope. You got to make it through the rest of the 17-week season, and when you lose Aaron Rodgers, you know your season was over, but you still had a little bit of hope because you still got to play the games. You see, when Aaron Rodgers got injured, the New York Jets coaches, they didn't sleep that night despite the fact they won that game. You want to know why? Because they knew it was wraps. The one thing that has held Robert Saleh from reaching it to the playoffs and changing this narrative about him not being able to be a winning football coach is him not having stability at quarterback. That's been the number one Achilles heel that Robert Saleh has dealt with as the Jets head coach. The offensive line isn't good neither, and they don't really have a lot of talent on offense outside of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, but Aaron Rodgers would have at least made this team a 9, maybe 10 win football club. There are a handful of games that the Jets lost this year that they would have won if they had Aaron Rodgers fully healthy. For example, that Chiefs game. You had Aaron Rodgers against the Chiefs. You win that game. Your defense kept you in that game. Not a lot of people give Robert Saleh's defense credit for the way they played against some of the better offenses in the NFL. Yeah, they gave up 30 to the Miami Dolphins, but you got no damn offense. When your offense is going 3 and out, maybe they get a field goal here and there. What do you expect? The defense is holding the water for this damn team. And they're eliminated. They're out of playoff contention, but they were already out of playoff contention when A-Rod went down. Like, if this owner gets rid of Robert Saleh, then he should just sell the team because he has no vision and no patience. You got to have a little bit of common sense to know that it takes a good quarterback to be able to win in this league. He went out there, got on his knees, and the rest of the Jets organization did to get Aaron Rodgers. And then you're going to fire the dude after one season of A-Rod being with the franchise and him not even having a chance to play? Come on, man. That would just be a stupid decision. I get it that head coaches that have losing records going into year 4, 9 times out of 10, turn out to be bad hires. But I don't see that being the case with Robert Saleh. You watch the majority of these Jets games, they fight and they're competitive. And this team hasn't quit on Robert Saleh. Not yet. But next season, if things don't work out, they are going to quit on him. Because you got Aaron Rodgers. Like, did you watch Hard Knocks? Did any of you guys watch Hard Knocks? You need to go watch the New York Jets preseason Hard Knocks and look at how this team not just talked about Aaron Rodgers, but rallied behind Aaron Rodgers. Like, all these players were doing were glazing Aaron Rodgers for everything that he did in practice. Oh, look at 12. 12 is so great. Look at 12. He's such an inspiration. Like, Sauce Gardner got this dude a fucking chain, man. That tells you everything that you need to know about Aaron Rodgers. This dude was the heart and soul of this team going into this year. Their hopes, their aspirations of being a playoff team all lied on him. And they all went down the drain when he got injured with that Achilles injury. Robert Saleh needs one more chance. I've seen a lot worse at head coach. The clock management can be a little bit iffy at times, but outside of that, I haven't seen anything that shows me that Robert Saleh is just a crappy head coach. Why would you go and get Aaron Rodgers just for him to get injured and not allow him to get one more opportunity to play with the coaching staff that brought him there? Nathaniel Hackett, we know this dude is a crappy offensive coordinator. We all knew this. But he was only there because of Aaron Rodgers. This team was constructed around Aaron Rodgers. So therefore, when he got injured, of course the team was going to be shit. It was built for him. So why are you going to fire Robert Saleh when you don't give him a chance to run it with the quarterback that he went out there and flew thousands of miles away to go recruit and pitch to come play for his football team? Most of their free agency signings, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, they signed those dudes because Aaron Rodgers wanted them to. There's no reason to fire Robert Saleh right now. If this owner fires Robert Saleh, he's making a stupid mistake. He needs to be a little bit more patient. Things are going to work out. And this season going the way that it did, to me, isn't even that bad. Okay? At least you don't throw Aaron Rodgers out there and you get him fucked up playing behind a garbage offensive line. Now, you're going to have a healthy Aaron Rodgers and you're going to have a chance to address the issues that were going to hold you back from making it to the Super Bowl this year. Next year, this roster has a chance of being really good. You can improve the offense. You know, maybe you can get you a couple of gems on the offensive line in the draft. There's going to be a lot of great offensive linemen, especially tackles in the 2024 draft class. You can improve the interior guard play. Like Elijah Vera Tucker, he got injured. There's been a lot of injuries that the Jets have dealt with as well on the offensive line. And on both sides of the football, they've had their fair share of injuries. But this is still a football team that next season, you bring back Robert Saleh and their general manager and Aaron Rodgers and company, this can be a playoff team. No minimum should this team win anything less than 8-9 games next year. 9 games should be the minimum. The floor possibly could be 13 wins. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played this game. I'm not going to question how good is he going to be coming off that Achilles injury. I get that Father Time has no day when he strikes. We saw Peyton Manning look good his final season in Denver for the first 3-4 weeks. And then Thursday night, he just completely fell apart against the Chiefs. And it was downhill from there. But Aaron Rodgers still has 2 or 3 good years of football left in the tank. And this dude is really committed to this franchise. I've never heard Aaron Rodgers sound so committed to what he is to the New York Jets. This dude took a massive pay cut for this team, for them to be able to have a little bit of leeway and a little bit of leverage to, fluctuate with the cap space. Aaron Rodgers made a commitment to this team, and he made a commitment to this coaching staff. So at least give Aaron Rodgers the luxury of running it one season with the coaching staff who brought him here. If it doesn't work in 2024, then you can fire Robert Saleh, and maybe Aaron Rodgers comes back and he wants to give it one more go with the new head coach. Who knows? But Robert Saleh should at least get one more season with the New York Jets. His win-loss record is mainly because he has had terrible quarterback play. I'm not excusing him from any of that blame, and he has had some games like last week when they just got outcoached. But if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to be able to win. We know they with Zach Wilson. We know that was a terrible decision. We get it. That's why they went out there and got Aaron Rodgers. The New York Jets season was Aaron Rodgers. And when he went down, their season went along with it, along with his Achilles. Hell, they were trying to get him back playing. They said that, if they didn't get eliminated from playoff contention and Aaron Rodgers was cleared by the doctors to play, he would be playing. He came out recently on the Pat McAfee show and said that he was still a couple of weeks away from getting cleared. But let's be honest, if the Jets were a 7-8 win team right now and they had 7 or 8 wins, Aaron Rodgers probably would be playing right now. He would have a reason to rush back from that Achilles injury. Because there's playoff hopes on the line. There's a chance that you make it to the playoffs, and with how good that defense is, you're going to be able to hang around any team in the postseason. With the way that Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense looked this season, the Jets could have won that game. Hell, they nearly beat them Sunday night with Zach Wilson. I want to see Robert Saleh get one more chance to run it back with this organization with the fully healthy Aaron Rodgers. Now, Christmas came early, everybody. The football gods have blessed us with the Baltimore Ravens versus the San Francisco 49ers Christmas Day. And let me tell you guys something. This is the most excited that I've ever been for a Monday night game in the last 4 to 5 years. You got the 1 seed and the Baltimore Ravens from the AFC taking on the 1 seed from the NFC and the San Francisco 49ers. Both of these teams have been super dominant this season. The 49ers beat the shit out of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, and then the Baltimore Ravens, they annihilated the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. They recently beat the Jaguars on the road in Jacksonville. You got two of the best teams in football right now. I'm looking at Lamar Jackson. This needs to be the game when he comes out and he solidifies himself as the MVP frontrunner. Because Brock Purdy, who's going to be playing on the opposite sideline of him, is the frontrunner for this award. And Lamar Jackson, statistically, he doesn't have the same numbers that Brock Purdy has. But if you watch the game and the plays that Lamar has made this year, he's made MVP-worthy plays nearly every single game for Baltimore this year. He's the sole reason why they're in this position right now with the opportunity to lock up the 1 seed. And they play Miami next week. And you really need to make sure that you win this game, because if you lose and you lose to Miami next week, then they could take control of the 1 seed in this division. And if the Ravens are going to be able to go all the way this year, this has to be the season. With Patrick Mahomes having a down year, with Joe Burrow being out, if Lamar is ever going to find a way to make it out of the AFC, this is his season. San Francisco, it looks like all the stars are aligned for them to win the Super Bowl this year. Kyle Shanahan, we know that this dude is notoriously known for not being able to get it done in the postseason when it all matters. This is a game where he needs to come out here, and this team needs to play their best football of the whole entire season. And they play some great football. But if you can blow out the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, then you have to clobber the Baltimore Ravens. That would give me so much confidence that the 49ers will win it all this year. Because to be honest with you, I still believe that the Ravens are going to win it all. I'm not finna bet against Lamar Jackson making it out of the AFC. And you look at the 49ers, you take them out of the NFC, who do you really feel confident about? What has made San Francisco such a juggernaut this year? Well, Brock Purdy is playing like a top 3, top 5 quarterback right now. Deebo Samuel, when this dude gets the ball in his hands, he's like a freaking truck. You got George Kittle. You got weapons galore. You got CMC, who's an MVP candidate. Your defense is loaded. Your defense has some issues, during the middle portion of the season when you went on a little bit of a cold stretch. But once you came off that bye and you clobbered Jacksonville, it's been smooth sailing ever since. This is going to be a dogfight. Both of these two teams, to me, are evenly matched. The 49ers are not a more talented team than the Baltimore Ravens. I keep hearing the national media pundits say that. What position are the 49ers better than the Ravens at? Outside of the offensive line, that's about it. The defensive line, from a talent standpoint, the 49ers are more talented than the Ravens defensive line, but they don't play like it. Chase Young, they traded for him at the trade deadline, and I haven't heard anything from Chase Young since. Meanwhile, you got Jadeveon Clowney, who's playing the best football of his NFL career, and he's like 30-something years old. You got Justin Metabuke, who's going off. Like, there are so many guys on this Baltimore Ravens defensive line that can get after the quarterback, and we've yet to see a team really this season, or at least since San Francisco has been hot coming off that bye week, been able to get constant pressure on Brock Purdy. For the Ravens to have success defensively in this game, they need to ruin the timing of this quick passing game. They need to get Brock Purdy out of rhythm. They need to force him to hold the football and allow that pass rush to really get after him. And you got to keep him inside of the pocket. Brock Purdy makes the killing once he gets outside the pocket. And that's the most underrated quality about Brock Purdy, how good he is throwing on the run or buying time for guys to get open. This dude is small, but he's really nimble. He's really elusive. And he's really scary once he breaks containment. Baltimore's pass rush should be able to keep him from inside the pocket. If you can get after him and you can be really aggressive and you can send pressure and you can ruin this rhythm of this West Coast offense, then you can get this 49ers offense playing into your hand. Christian McCaffrey is going up against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. It's really hard to run on this Baltimore Ravens front. Is this San Francisco team capable of being able to do that? Yes, they are. But we've yet to really see a team just blast the Ravens on the ground. And I doubt that this is going to be a game that we see it tonight, or this is going to be a game that we see it happen. Chris McCaffrey is really good, but this Ravens front, they really know how to clog up those rushing lanes. And not only is their defensive line good against the pass, but they're just as good against the run. The Ravens are 7th in the NFL in rushing yards per game allowed. Now, the Rams, they had a little bit of success early on when they played running the football against this Ravens front until they made some adjustments with Kyron Williams. But I have a lot of belief in their defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, that his whole game plan is going to be structured around slowing down CMC and trying to find a way to ruin the timing of this West Coast quick strike passing offense. Baltimore, offensively, their offense, to me, has way more talent than what the 49ers do. Now, they don't have any superstars. Okay, you don't have a Deebo Samuel or a CMC, anybody on that side of the ball that ranks top 3 or top 5 at their position. But you do have Lamar, and you got a really great supporting cast around him. You got OBJ, who's made a lot of big plays the last month. You got Zay Flowers, who's been one of the best rookie wide receivers. You got Isaiah Likely, who is replacing Mandrews, who made a 50-yard grab against the Rams. And he had a grab last week against the Jaguars when he mossed like 2 defenders. This offense has enough talent to be able to score points on a defense that is 2nd in the NFL in points per game allowed. You know who's number 1? The Baltimore Ravens. The 49ers don't have a talent advantage over Baltimore in this game. Both of these two teams are evenly matched when it comes to the level of play that they've been getting from both sides of the football, both having MVP play out of the quarterback position, both having really great coaching staffs, 2 really good head coaches. This game is really hard to pick. I don't know who to go with. The 49ers are really hot right now, and they've clobbered what we believe to be 2 of the best teams in the league at one point, Philly and Dallas. The Baltimore Ravens, they've gotten some really impressive wins at home. The only thing with Baltimore is that sometimes they can kind of shoot themselves in the foot and they don't really do a great job at executing in certain moments. But for the most part, this team has played great football consistently from week 1 to week 16 now. And I'm taking them to get this win on the road. I get it. San Francisco is a tough out when they got to play on the road. But the Baltimore Ravens are the best team that the 49ers have had to play defending their home field against all season long. The Ravens are the 2nd best team in the NFL, right behind San Francisco, and the gap isn't that close. They will beat Dallas, and they will easily beat the Philadelphia Eagles with the way they've looked the last couple of weeks. I'm taking Lamar Jackson and the Ravens to get the win. And this is coming from a Steelers fan, but I've been rocking with the Ravens since the start of this season. I told you boys that the AFC this year was going to come down to either Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. And y'all said I was crazy. Y'all said I was overrating this team. Well, look where we're at right now. Lamar Jackson, I'm rocking with you, my boy. Go get this win. This is it for this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Remember that every episode of the podcast is available in audio format on all podcasting platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, you can find the JT Sports Podcast. I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to be live later on today. I might, because there are some things I want to talk about. I do want to give you guys my college football playoff predictions, but it is Christmas time, and I do need to spend some time away from this, focusing on the other channels. If you don't know, we got the JT Sports NFL channel and the JT Sports College Football channel going. Make sure to go ahead and check those out. We're going to be uploading a lot of content on those channels over the next couple of weeks or so. So make sure that you subscribe to JT Sports College Football and JT Sports NFL. You can find it on the homepage of my YouTube channel here. And leave us with a 5-star review if you enjoyed, and have a good night.